Magandang gabi po mga katipon sa Pilipinas. Ito po ang ating katipunan. Muling sumasa sa inyo mga tagapakinig upang magbigay ng mahalagang impormasyon, magbigay liwanag, at higit sa lahat makinig sa inyong mga daing at kuro-kuro hinggil sa mga problemang patuloy na nagpapahirap sa ating kalagayan at kabuhay. Sa susunod na oras o 2 oras, sisikapin natin paliwanag sa inyo ang mga iba-ibang bahagi ng ating ekonomiya at ang mga mabibigat pang local and international issues na may malaking epekto sa ating buhay at kinabukasan. Kung inyong katipon na si Butch Valdes, kasama ko ang aking co-host dito na si Itos Valdes, at kami dito ay tiga Save the Nation Movement at tiga ang ating pong Katipunan Demokratikong Pilipino at iba pang mga organisasyon na kasali kami. Kami po dito ay nag-aanyaya sa inyo na makibahagi sa ating talakayan sa pagsusuri ng mga kasalukuyang problema at paghahanap ng kaukulang solusyon. Okay, ngayon po, di pa rin natin lulubayan sa ang ating pong topic na pinag-uusapan for the past how many Sundays now. Walang iba kundi itong mga nangyari ngayon sa Estados Unidos at itong mga karaan na mga nagaganap sa bansang Amerika. This past week. At napaka-importante din po at maski pa paano, buong mundo po nakatutok ngayon sa Amerika dahil palapit na itong halalan at mukhang matindi ang labanan. At ang labanan dito ay hindi lang sa larangan ng politika, parang sa larangan, lalong-lalo na sa larangan ng mga tinatawag nilang deep state na mayroong planong gumawa ng mga kanilang gustong itulak at yung mga iba naman na hindi pumapayag sa ganyan at gustong paunlarin ang sitwasyon ng ekonomiya at ng Amerika at sa buong mundo. Ito pong conflicting positions is probably the first time in the history of the United States that are being contested. Dati po, Democratic Party at Republican Party at meron sila kanilang mga plano tungkol sa mga taxes at iba-iba pang bagay. Ngayon, mas malalim po ang issues. At although hindi natin naririnig sa mga mainstream media katulad ng mga CNN, pero yung mas malalim na issue siguro kung susuriin yung mabuti at palagay ko kung makikinig kayo sa aming mga analysis dito sa ating Katipunan channel, palagay ko makikita nyo pa rin yung gano'ng kalalim dito. Later on, we will be showing you some clips about what is happening.
Yeah, the week gone by.
The week that had gone by, baka pag-usapan na rin natin yung nakaraan debate, no?
Yes.
At ano yung mga issues na pinag-usapan doon. At sa palagay nyo, sino ba dapat ang titingnan natin at pagdadasal na mamuno ng bansang Amerika dahil sa may kinalaman po yan sa ating kinabukasan. The world is really at risk right now, depending on who is going to be leading the world in the United States.
Yes, I wanted to add lang, Chairman, no? This thing, yung election po natin sa US, what President Trump represents, hindi lang to choice between issues on whether taxes will go here or healthcare will go here, or hindi domestic issue ng US ang nakasalalay sa election na to. What Trump represents po is a clean break from the policies that have been the US policies. Global economics, foreign policy,
Right.
domestic and international finance since 1963 po, John F. Kennedy. So the last po na yung Bush presidency, Clinton, tsaka si Obama. What Trump represents is ibang-iba from these guys, whether Republican or Democrat. So importante, and minabuti po namin na we have to keep discussing this para sa US, and it represents the future nga of the world. Whether we slide back into constant wars, more deaths,
and bigger wars,
and more deaths, devastation, no development, sickness, or we move towards a future na our children and even us can look forward to as a new renaissance for mankind. Ganito ka po ka-importante. Siguro, kahit at risk of sounding very romantic about it or very about it, yun talaga po yung analysis namin na this is the most important election which will determine the next maybe 100 years of humanity. Kasi po sa lahat na sinasabi natin about what Trump is doing, he is undoing everything that has been in place since 1960s po.
Ito pong ginagawa natin, no? Wala, maski na kung ano pang gaganda ng ating programang maitulak, hanggang ngayon meron pa rin tayong mga problema na hinihingi kay Presidente Duterte na sana gawin na to at maayos niya yung buhay ng mamayang Pilipino at ihanda niya yung bansa natin na mas malakas para kung ano man na epidemya ang darating, mas kakayanin. No? We can all do that. But if another leadership gets into the United States and they implement a war policy against China, against Russia, against North Korea, against Iran, these types of wars are no longer going to be simple, personnel or soldiers running around in the fields and bombing. This is going to be nuclear. And nuclear war is going to cause much more devastation, much more deaths. No country, but if these things start, whether it is the US versus China or the US versus Russia, any of these things start, the whole world economy will stop. And no amount of preparation we can do here in the Philippines will save us from being involved, even as victims of a war between the superpowers. That's why we are very much concerned about this. We cannot influence the election in the United States. We are not voters in the United States. But we have to understand the importance of these developments, because what is going to happen there will impact on the rest of the world. Gusto ko lang, ito madalas namin sinasabi, paulit-ulit, no? Para ma-internalize natin that all of these things have a meaning,
Yes.
for us. No? And there is no other radio or television program that will deal with this extensively and in this depth. We will be showing you.
Yeah, there is a clip from our friend si Liz Wheeler. Siya kasi nagsa-summarize ng maganda ng the last we've been showing her YouTube parang news report of what the mainstream media does not show you in the whole week.
Yung mainstream media po na sabi na yung mga CNN,
Fox.
okay? Fox News, NBC, yan po yung mainstream media. At doon po tayo, karamihan sa atin, doon nakatutok. No? At ang dalas, marami silang hindi sinasabi at puro may anggulo. No?
Right.
Pero
Tsaka,
ngayon,
yeah, tsaka yung madalas na yung importante na kailangan malaman ng tao, wala doon. So, maski na magbasa kayo ng Inquirer o Star o yung local news, wala kayong mahanap na significant news what's going on around the world, which affects us. So, now, siguro we can play yung kay Liz Wheeler. Sige.
The 5 stories the mainstream media refused to report to you this week. Number 1. The New York Times released what they called a bombshell report, claiming they got their hands on President Trump's personal tax returns. They said they found in 2017 that Trump paid only $750 in personal income tax. The New York Times called this a scandal and insinuated that Trump's tax avoidance was shady and bad. But did the tax returns show Trump breaking any laws? No, not at all. Did Trump's tax returns expose secret Russian collusion like we've been told by the mainstream media? No, nothing. Did the New York Times show that Trump actually paid millions in taxes? Yes. But did the mainstream media report on any of that? No. The mainstream media pretended the New York Times article was a bombshell, when really it was a nothing burger. I mean, who pays more in taxes than they're legally required? Number 2. A new report from the Senate GOP shows Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, received millions of dollars in transactions from foreign individuals while Joe was vice president, including receiving a $3.5 million wire transfer from Elena Baturina, the wife of the former mayor of Moscow. Hunter Biden also received transfers from entities controlled by Yi Jianming, a Chinese businessman who was deputy secretary for a front group for the People's Liberation Army. Hunter Biden's investment firm then got a Chinese Communist Party business license after visiting Beijing with his dad while Joe Biden was vice president. And Hunter Biden paid thousands of dollars for Eastern European hookers that may have been sex trafficked by Russian mafia. But did the mainstream media report this to you? Nope, they barely mentioned it. Number 3, President Donald Trump signed an executive order protecting babies who were born alive regardless of prematurity, disability, or circumstances of birth. This is what the order reads, and I quote, "It is the policy of the United States to recognize the human dignity and inherent worth of every newborn or other infant child, regardless of prematurity or disability, and to ensure for each child due protection under the law." The order reads, every infant born alive, no matter the circumstances of his or her birth, has the same dignity and the same rights as every other individual, and is entitled to the same protections under federal law. Such laws include the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, which guarantees in hospitals that have an emergency department each individual's right to an appropriate medical screening examination and to either stabilizing treatment or an appropriate transfer, end quote. In addition, this executive order directs the Department of Health and Human Services to defund any non-compliant programs or activities. But did the mainstream media report this to you? No. The mainstream media is in the pocket of the left, and the left wants to refuse medical care to babies born alive after botched abortions. Number 4. During the first presidential debate on Tuesday night, Joe Biden refused to answer whether he will pack the Supreme Court if he's elected president. He simply wouldn't answer if he would fundamentally transform the judicial branch of our government, even though many people in his own party are calling for him to do it. He wouldn't tell you what he plans to do. And what's worse, Joe Biden knew the mainstream media would give him a pass and allow him to deflect like this. And sure enough, did the mainstream media report that Biden wouldn't answer the question? No, they didn't. The mainstream media mostly stayed silent. Number 5. According to a Telemundo online poll, a whopping 66% of Spanish-speaking Americans said President Trump won the first presidential debate against Joe Biden, while only 34% said Biden won. But did the mainstream media report this? Of course not. Instead, CNN's Dana Bash called the debate a shit show. Since the mainstream media refuses to report any of that to you, I will.
Okay. So, to summarize lang, ano sabi ni Liz Wheeler? Number one, si Trump, during sa debate, saka bago yung debate, may report daw sila na hindi nagbabayad ng taxes ni Trump. Pero hindi po totoo yun. So, nagbabayad siya, at milyon-milyon ang binayad niya sa taxes all throughout. Never po siya na-investiga. But, pinupush po nila. Number two, si Hunter Biden. Marami pong anak ni Joe Biden. Marami pong korupsyon na nangyayari with Hunter Biden. And Hunter Biden supposedly received money from certain people in Russia and China during the time na yung tatay niya is vice president. So, and hindi lang po yun. Si Hunter Biden po may history ng drug abuse. Actually, dinischarge po siya ng Navy dahil doon. So, maraming issue yun. Number three, yung Born Alive bill. So, Trump supports that. Executive order po. It's not a bill yet, but Born Alive executive order. Lahat daw ng babies that are born are entitled to full medical care and support. Dati po walang ganyan. Number four, during the debate, si Biden refused to answer a lot of questions. Dinideflect po siya, tapos tinutulungan pa ng moderator. So, then number five, Spanish-speaking Americans po, 66%. Sabi nila, Trump panalo sa debate against Biden. Pero hindi po nare-report yan. So, you have any reactions to those?
Gusto ko lang balikan itong tungkol sa abortion muna, no?
Yung Born Alive.
Primero, dapat alam niyo po si Trump has always been pro-life.
Yeah.
He's not just pro-choice or he definitely is not pro-abortion. He's not even pro-choice. He is definitely pro-life.
Right.
He's against abortion in whatever level. Ngayon, nagkaroon dati kasi ng desisyon ang Korte Suprema ng Amerika dahil dito sa lumabas yung Roe versus Wade. Yung Roe versus Wade po, nagbigay ng desisyon ng Korte Suprema ng Amerika na pwede ang abortion. Pag early term abortion ang tawag nila. At ang babae daw, ang nanay, may karapatan isalba ang buhay niya o mag-decide kung sa paano niya buhay. And ibig sabihin nun, yung karapatan ng nanay sa katawan niya ay mangingibabaw sa buhay ng bata na nasa kanyang sinapupunan. Okay? Ito po, nag-umpisa itong so-called pro-choice. Choice daw ng nanay. Naging controversial po yan. No? Tapos, hanggang ngayon po, umiiral pa yung batas na yan. Pero yung babaeng justice na nagtutulak nito, si Justice Rose Bader Ginsburg ay last week po namatay. No? I don't know what
2 weeks ago.
Cancer or something. No? Namatay na siya. So ngayon ang in-appoint na bagong nominated ng justice si President Trump, no? Ay isa pong babae din, no? Napakatalino, palaging nasa taas ng kanyang sa kanyang mga academics at malawak ang eksperyensya sa pag-abogasiya at practicing parang Court of Appeals sa bansang Amerika. Batang-bata pa to, I think she's 48 years
47.
old. She's also a Roman Catholic, by the way. And she has 7 children. Out of these 7 children, 2 are adopted from Haiti. Tapos yung isa meron Down syndrome yung. Pero 7 ang children niya. Abogado siya, abogado din yung kanyang asawa. Pero naaalaga niya yung kanya at yung kanyang naayos niya yung buhay niya. Kanya, she's an amazing woman, sabi ni President Trump, at kanya siya pinili dahil dito. Galit na galit itong mga Democrats dito kay her name, Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Siya po, ayan ang pangalan niya. Bakit po? Di nila muna ma-pinpoint kung bakit sila galit. Ayaw lang nila magkaroon ng isang justice na baka kalaban itong abortion. Lalong-lalo na itong inappoint na justice ay isang Katoliko din. Yan ang kanilang pinanggigiitan. Pero going further, itong pinirmahan, ba yan?
Executive order.
Executive order ni Trump. Nasabi niya, lahat ng bata na napanganak na may basic right for government to support it medically and in all aspects so that we preserve the dignity of human life. Na napanganak na preserve the dignity of human life. Kanya nga. Bakit po,
wording, diba?
Bakit po importante ito? Kasi po meron mga tao na sumubok sadyain mag-abort ng kanilang anak. Pero kung ang tawag nila Butch abortion, sabihin, di na ituloy na i-abort pero sinubukan nilang i-abort. At itong batang to nabuhay nung napanganak. Nung napanganak, yung mga ito, sabi, kinakailangan bigyan din ng katarungan o kailangan ng kapangyarihan itong mga nanay, papatay yung kanilang anak na hindi nila na-abort nung nasa loob pa ng kanilang napupunta. So, Trump had to come out with an executive order, regardless of the circumstances of that life of the baby from in the womb all the way up to the time that it was born, regardless of those circumstances. President Trump said, that baby has a right to live and it has a right to be protected by the government. Ito po yung executive order ni President Trump. Tingnan niyo po, ngayon po, ang laking debate niyan sa Amerika. Pero President Trump draws the line. Hindi siya mamumulitika. Sabi niya, pagdating dito, human life, dignity of human life, that's where he draws the line. He will stand pat on this. Sila Biden, sila Pelosi, sila Hillary Clinton, lahat yan. Hanggang late-term abortion, payag sila. Hanggang napanganak na yung bata, payag pa silang patayin.
Kung gusto ng nanay.
Kung gusto daw ng nanay. Si Hillary Clinton, yan palaging sinasabi. It is the choice of the mother. Sabi niya.
And that was protected
that position was protected by the previous justice, yung namatay. Yun ang sinasabi niya. Kanya, importante po, para malaman nyo kung paano mag-iisip itong si President Trump. Maski paano nilang sinisiraan sila. Kung manonood lang kayo ng CNN, saka Fox News, saka mga iba pang NBC, ABC, no? Kung yun ang papaniwalaan nyo, buti pa siguro wag na lang kayo manood. No? Kasi isa lang ang linya ng mga yan. Yung tinatawag ni Trump na deep state. Ito po yung mga taong gustong gumawa ng malaking problema sa Amerika para ituluyan nilang ibagsak niya para makahanap sila ng pamamaraan magpunta sa one world government. Yan po ang direction niya. And in order to do this, they have to destroy the leader nation of the world. Bakit po tawag natin yan leader nation? Kasi po titingnan nyo po yung kanilang declaration of 17. This is not just the American Declaration of Independence. It is a universal document. And I suggest that all of you, if you have the time, look for it. Google nyo po. Makikita nyo yung first statements that they make there. That all men are created equal. Alam nyo po, yung ganyang klaseng, just that initial statement alone was already controversial at that time. And some people, up to now, do not believe that all men are created equal. Ang nasa isip nila, they have the entitlement to be rich, to be powerful, and the others are, and kanilang fate is to be poor and weak. And for that matter, they must control the poor. Hanggang ngayon. But nung ginawa po ito, very important, all men are created equal. Endowed with inalienable rights. Pag napanganak, meron na siyang karapatan na hindi mo maihiwalay sa kanyang inalienable rights to life, right to life. Liberty, he is a free individual. He is a sovereign individual. And pursuit, karapatan niyang ng kanyang sa kanyang ikabubuti, sa kanyang kaligayahan, satisfaction. You have
welfare.
Lahat, welfare, pati na yung development na every sovereign, that is those inalienable rights of man. Hindi lang nila hindi yan pang Amerika, hindi yan, pero pang kalahatan ng sangkatauhan. That's why it is a universal document na kinakailangan at wala nang iba pang bansa na nag-umpisa ng ganitong klaseng pag-iisip. Ang Amerika po in 1776. Yung mga sumunod na republika ay ginaya itong kanilang Declaration of Independence at isinalin sa kanilang mga saligang batas, yung kanilang preamble of their constitution. Most of them have rephrased this in different ways, but there is nothing more clear than the Declaration of Independence of 1776 made by these people, supposedly for America. But when you read it, you would know that it is for all of humanity. That is why many people believe that this is the leader nation. because it is based on those principles that it had made the United States the power that it is, the economics power that it is, and the military power that it has. It is also those same principles that had led many people from all over the world try to migrate into this country, the land of the free, ang tawag nila. So, now, maski na tayo ay hindi tayo lilipat dun sa Amerika dahil tayo sovereign nation at patriotiko tayo dito. Hindi ibig sabihin hindi natin itutulak itong mga inalienable rights of man. Hindi ibig sabihin hindi natin itutulak that all men are created equal. Yan po yung mga prinsipyong pinaniniwalaan nila at pinaniniwalaan din natin at pinaniniwalaan ng buong sangkatauhan. Now, there are others that want to destroy this. Yun po ang kalaban ngayon ni President Trump. At kung kalaban niya yan, kalaban na rin natin. Yan po ang aming pag-iisip.
Yeah, I wanted to add lang. Tama po. The US nga po, maalala po natin sa history po natin, wala kasing country or nation or republic or democracy during the time of 1776 or 1776. Lahat po ng bansa ay ruled by a monarchy. Okay? So may hari, may reyna, tapos lahat servants po nila, subjects po nila. Wala po yung konsepto ng bansa. Walang nation state. So ang dokumento na sinasabi ni Chairman about 1776 Declaration of Independence, ilatag po nila bakit kailangan mag-independent sila sa kanilang colonial master, which is Britain, Great Britain at the time, Inglaterra. Nagbigay sila ng bakit, what is the principles behind, and one of the most celebrated, one of the most beautifully written phrases in all of humanity is that all men were created equal under and have the right to life, live, pursuit of happiness. Kumbaga, hindi sila nagsulat ng kanilang Declaration of Independence para lang sa Amerikano. So it was all men are created equal. So ibig sabihin yung mga liderato ng Amerika recognize that lahat ng tao sa buong may karapatan to be free, to establish a nation state. Dapat wala na yung monarchy. Parang tayo po, kalaban yung Spain. Right? We wanted to be free. What were the ideas that prompted our founding fathers, or some of them, to be free? And they knew po yung declaration po ng independence ng United States. By 1890s, kalat na po yung Declaration of Independence na sa buong mundo at the time. And when they created the Constitution, yung preamble po, yung ideas of forming a nation, yung guide po niyan is the Declaration of Independence. Hindi lang po sa Pilipinas, but lahat ng countries around the world and peoples, because it encompassed the desire of a people to be free. Nobody is their ruler. Kaya po, nag-establish ng presidential form of government, like the United States. Kaya po tayo dito ngayon. Kaya nakakaboto po tayo. Dati po walang ganyan. So that is the significance of this. Now, it is threatened again by the same forces that want one world government. Ayaw na nila ng mga nation state. Alam niyo po yung mga sinasabi natin dito na tao like si George Soros, yung mga Prince Philip, mga royal family, monarchies, yung mga oligarchies, yung mga ganon. They want that they rule over all of humanity. Wala na mga independent nation states talking to each other and talking about development. Ayaw nila ng ganon. Ayaw nilang lumago ang kunyari, Pilipinas. So ayaw nila lumago ang Indonesia, Malaysia, India. So they want, ang gusto nila, magkagera lahat-lahat para sila ang mamumuno. Yan ang pinutulak nila ngayon. Yan po, tinatawag natin na deep states. Yan po ang tinatawag natin na globalists na wala ng nation states. Wala ng republic of the Philippines. Wala na po yon. Yan ang gusto po nila. Yan po ang kalaban ni Trump. Malalo pa po, I have to bring you back to Trump's speech in Davos, Switzerland. Kaharap niya lahat ng mga G7 nations and the banking elite ng mundo. Yung mga globalists, kaharap niya, sinabi niya, the future does not belong to the globalists, it belongs to the patriots. Right. Sinabi niya, lahat ng bansa dapat malakas. Kami, gusto ko malakas ang Amerika. Dapat malakas rin yung China, yung Russia. Sinabi niya po yun. Ayaw na namin ng gera-gera. Hindi na pwede yung ganyan. Yan po ang kalaban niya. Yan po nakikita natin sa CNN, sa mga yung pagbabatikos kay Trump. Yan ang resulta niyan kasi lumalaban sila. Ayaw nilang matalo sa ganito. Yan ang kalaban ni Trump. Napakabigat po, napakalaki ng kalaban nito. Mga mayayaman sa mundo, yung mga malalaking kumpanya. Remember po, aside from the Born Alive Bill, binabaan niya pa yung presyo ng gamot.
Yes.
Prescription medicines. Inaaway niya lahat ng CEO ng mga pharma companies. Ha? Hindi niya minura, hindi niya pero ginawa lang niya.
Inutos niya lang, executive order.
Ito gagawin ko, down. Wala silang kailangan dumaan sa Kongreso, Senate. Hindi, executive order lang. Bababaan ko lahat.
Wala man state of emergency, ha?
Wala.
Binabaan niya, sinabi niya sa mga butika, sa mga pharmaceutical companies, cut down the prices of pharmaceuticals and medicine. Umangal ngayon itong mga big pharma. Wala siyang pakialam. Tingnan niyo po yung ganyang klaseng leader. No? Wala na siya. Sige, kasuhan niyo ako kung gusto niyo. Kasuhan niyo ako kung gusto niyo. Pero ito yung gagawin ko para sa taong bayan.
Sa tao. Kasi kailangan magsalba ng buhay.
Yes.
Ganon siya mag-isip.
They have to save lives.
Yes. Because that's written in their constitution and written in their laws. The state shall value that life. The state shall value each and every life, an unborn and born alive. So, di lang niya sasabihin nyo, sama naman, napakahirap mahalin si Trump o whatever, pero ginagawa niya po lahat. Ang dami niya pong nagawa. During the COVID time, binabaan niya pa, sabi niya, walang mag-i-evict ng tao sa, di ba? Sa bahay nila. Tapos, yung bayad nyo sa taxes, bababaan niya. Yung bayad nyo yung utang nyo sa schools, yung college tuition, hindi nyo pwedeng i-charge, hindi nyo pwedeng taasan. Ginawa niya po lahat yan. Marami talaga siyang kalaban.
Pero pagdating sa mainstream media, kung yung po ang pinapanood nyo, baliktad na baliktad po yung nangyayari.
Yes.
At dapat, siyempre, huwag kayong masyadong papatanga sa mainstream media. Dahil hawak po nila ang kanilang ang minds ng people. Etong si Trump, balikan ko nga yung yung kanyang pro-human dignity, against abortion.
Yes.
Siya po yung nagpapadefend ng Planned Parenthood. Ano po ba yung Planned Parenthood? Explain mo nga.
Planned Parenthood is essentially because nga yung sa decision ng Supreme Court na yung siyang tumayong defender ng law na yon, is that a woman is allowed to abort.
Roe versus Wade.
Yun yung decision 1970s yun, Roe versus Wade. Ibig sabihin, kung wala kang pera, kunyari, nabuntis ka, teenager ka, kasi kami ka na, nabuntis ka, gusto mong ilaglag, pupunta ka ngayon sa mga tinatawag na abortion clinic sa US. So, nagbigay sila ng funding dahil nga sa desisyon na yon at ng presidente after that, binibigyan ng budget.
Ang tawag dito sa organization, Planned Parenthood. Tapos may mga clinics yan na naka-connect dito sa Planned Parenthood.
Oh,
Para pang reproductive health bill natin dito sa
Yes.
Pilipinas.
yes.
Ngayon, kumukuha ng pondo ito sa mga ibang donors, tsaka kumukuha din ng pondo
Sa taxpayer.
sa taxpayer, sa gobyerno.
Sa budget.
No? Pero mo, kukuha ka ng budget para lang pumatay ng mga bata.
Yes.
Yung mga iba, primero, siyempre Planned Parenthood. So, sasabihin nila, medyo eto na ginahasa ito, kailangan i-abort, mga ganyan-ganyan klaseng mga excuses. Eventually, they just continued with abortion.
Hindi na kailangan ng rason.
Wala nang rason. Basta abortion na lang. Kung gusto mong abortion, sige.
Kasi, nakasalalay sa desisyon ng Supreme Court at the time, Roe versus Wade, you have a right to do it. Hindi ka pwedeng pigilan. At yung mga doktor na pumigil sa'yo, pwede mong isumbong sa gobyerno. Sinasabi nila, that's against my constitutional right.
Ngayon, etong si Trump ngayon, tinatanggalan niya ng pondo yung Planned Parenthood. Kasi nga, nagiging reason for increase in abortions. Nawawala na pong morality ang mga tao, pa-abort na lang ng pag-abort, which means killing and killing and killing. A lot of people. Then this goes into the millions.
Yeah.
This is not just like COVID na kasi millions po. Ang sinasabi nila 300,000 dito sa namatay dito sa bansang Amerika sa COVID. Yung abortion po maybe 3, 4, 5 times more than that. No? Maybe even more.
More.
No? Sa Amerika pa lang yan.
Yes.
No?
But hindi lang yun. Yung Planned Parenthood kasi, it was a organization nga na sinasabi kailangan reproductive health, women's reproductive health, iplano nyo yung family nyo, family planning. Yan ang tapos kukuha sila ng funding from government. Now, recently na-discover lang, but they've been doing this for a while, na nagbebenta sila, yung Planned Parenthood, ang pina-abort nila sa mga clinic, na binibenta nila sa mga biotechnology companies, sa mga pharmaceuticals kasi for their testing. So yung na-abort, pinatay na bata, yung mga parts, fetus, tissues, gano'n, binibenta pa nila.
Yung mga tissues, gagamitin po nila yan sa mga pharmaceutical companies for various reasons. They can use it to add on to vaccines. They can use it for testing. Itong mga tinetest nilang mga kung paano nagre-react ang human tissue dito sa mga pharmaceuticals. They use it. Pero ang ginagamit po nila itong mga fetuses na-discard sa mga abortion clinics.
Minsan. Tapos, nahuli po to. May video sa internet po, sa YouTube. Hanapin nyo po. Nag-undercover yung mga journalist at kunwari bibili sila, representing sila ng mga pharma. Ngayon, pumunta sila sa mga Planned Parenthood. May mga meeting sa usapan. Ito, mga direktor ng Planned Parenthood, kunyari sa LA or sa New York, sinasabi yung presyo. Tapos, may presyo pa sila kung buong-buo yung bata o kung hindi na masyadong buo.
Mas mahal.
Mas mahal yung buong fetus. Ganun lang po yung usapan. So, this is the kind of thing that they've been doing. Itong mga... Tapos, gusto pa nila late-term abortion. So may ibang kita pa sila doon. So nahuli po sila sa ganito, may kaso sila sa iba't ibang at sinabi na ni Trump na kung na-re-elect po siya, tatanggalin niya po yung funding ng Planned Parenthood kasi criminal lang ginagawa nila ngayon. Okay?
Ang posisyon naman ni Biden doon sa kabila, sabi na, papadagdagan daw nila
Budget.
ang budget ng Planned Parenthood. Yun ang posisyon nitong si Biden.
Yeah. And then, but the other thing is, yung founding member, one of the founding members, I think, or directors of Planned Parenthood, yung tatay po ni Bill Gates. Si Bill Gates. Okay? So, obviously, ngayon, alam naman po natin, and hindi naman to speculation, o hindi to po haka-haka, ha? In his own words, sinabi ni Bill Gates na gusto niyang pa-depopulate yung mundo by 15% kung okay. Kung pwede nilang gamitin yung vaccine, pwede nilang gamitin. Ito po yung galing sa kanya, hindi po kami nag-iimbento, hanapin niyo po. Many ways. So, depopulate siya. Nakuha niya yan sa tatay niya. Ang tatay niya, maganda rin ng storya we dig up the history of Bill Gates Sr. Depopulist rin po siya. And kilala niya, marami siyang mga picture na kasama si Fauci, kasama yung mga ibang oligarchy, Soros, sila nag-uusap. And they're all depopulist. So, wala silang gustong isalba na human life. Gusto lang niya. Kaya nga yung may mga nagsasabi po sa Facebook o kung sa amin na tao parang makikinig po tayo sa isang taong gusto mag-depopulate ng mundo. Sige, pakita mo yan, Roxy. Yung picture na yan, kasama si WHO. Paano mo susuportahan si Bill Gates na gustong ilarin yung depopulation, gustong pumatayin ng tao, tapos siya daw magbibigay ng vaccine sa'yo? Di ba? So, ito po yung picture ni Bill Gates. Ito kasama niya yung head ng WHO. Okay, I forget his name. Medyo maano yung pangalan niya. But may history na po yan kasi malaking donation po ang binibigay ni Bill Gates. Dati pa natin sinasabi to, but it's good to keep repeating it, no? Marami pong intertwined na business ang ginagawa. Alam mo si Bill Gates, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, siya po ang isa sa the biggest private donor sa lahat ng pharma companies. Biggest, siya mismo. Tapos tinetest nila sa mga third world countries. Sige, Rox. Remember remember we had the health secretary, si Flavier?
Yes.
Remember him? 'Di ba? Meron siyang program sa country, sa probinsya.
Yung
Alis,
polio ba yun?
Oo, parang polio vaccine daw. Pero lumitaw na it is also it makes you impotent.
Ginagawa pong baog yung mga bata.
Oo.
Pero paglaki nila, wala na silang kakayanan mabuntis.
Yes.
No? Yung mga babae.
Yeah, yun po yung epekto ng...
Hindi sila mabubuntis.
Oh, yan yung... Dati pa yung DOH, ha? Panahon ni Ramos yan. Diba? So all of these programs were in place before pa. Hindi lang ngayon, yung mga pinupush nilang Denbaksya. Tinutulak nilang mga... Lahat yan, objective po niyan is to depopulate. Meaning, wala silang binibigay na halaga sa mga third world nations. Doon sila nakipag-testing eh. So, magte-test muna sila sa probinsya, ang epekto niyan, bago ma-approve ng US FDA or other things. Tayo ang ginagawa tinatawag na ginipig.
Maski sa India
also.
nakasuhan ngayon si Bill Gates. Dahil dito sa tinutulak nilang vaccine. Hindi COVID another vaccine. Parang sa atin, ang natulak natin nila dito ng Dengvaxia. Sa naman yun, Sanofi. Pero ang epekto ganyan din. Imbes na bumubuhay ng bata, pumapatay.
or what you said last week na
Mm.
inaano nila yung immunity
Right.
ng tao.
Yung ginagawa pong isa nila ay pag binigyan ka daw ng vaccine, yung vaccine po, sabihin natin COVID, ang mangyayari po dyan, lalabanan nga yung COVID. Hindi ka nga maahawa sa COVID. Pero ang ginagawa nitong vaccine, dahil meron silang ginawang magic dyan, ibababa ang iyong resistensya laban naman sa ibang klaseng sakit. Kung pwede nilang pag tinamaan ka ng trangkaso, mabilis na nagiging pneumonia. Pag tinamaan ka ng
Diabetes, everything.
diabetes o mga meningitis, ito mga to, mabilis kang tatamaan. No? At babagsak kasi ang iyong immunity. No? Alam nyo kasi ang katawan natin may natural pong panglaban sa sakit. No?
Yes.
Meron po tayo palaging antibodies na nagagawa habang throughout our life. No? Yan pong mga virus na yan, meron din maabot sa atin. But dahil meron tayong sariling antibodies, naturally, nare-repel yung mga sakit na yan.
Immunity.
Maski na andun sa atin, no, di tayo talagang nagkakasakit ng matindi.
Yeah.
No?
Kasi nilalabanan.
Kasi meron tayong natural na lumalaban yan sa sakit. Ngayon, pag i-injectionan ka, kunwari, laban sa ibang sakit, no? Pero yung injection na yon, ang ginagawa sa'yo, yung panglaban mo sa ibang sakit, nawawala. No? Kanya you become susceptible to other diseases. And that is what kills you.
So that is the design so far. So itong si Trump, yan po ang mga kalaban niya. Galit na galit sila kay Trump. Kasi bababaan niya lahat ng presyo ng gamot. Bababaan niya yung presyo ng... Tapos siyempre magagalit ng mga oligarchy. Mga world oligarchy. Kanilang yung nagbebenta ng... So yun. So that is what we're facing now. Ngayon, itong recent po na sinasabi nila nagka-COVID si Trump. Kahapon lang, sabi nila, nagka-COVID ako, sabi ni Trump. Positive yung test ko, o kailangan mag-quarantine. So, in all, wala po kaming sinasabing hindi totoo yan. Kasi si Trump naman has always been honest about it. So sabi niya, nagka-COVID ako, positive, pero positive rin siya na malulutasan ito. And lahat ng mga supporter niya, pati sa mga online and all, hindi natatakot. In fact, sabi nila, okay lang yan, Presidente, makapagpahinga ka ng konti. Pero babalik at babalik si Trump. Ngayon pa lang, sa mga Twitter, tsaka yung mga lumalabas si Trump, nagtatawa pa rin siya. Bibigay siya ng video na sinasabi, okay ako, don't worry, ganun. Okay pa rin siya. Hindi siya mukhang may sakit. At sabi niya, yung asawa ko si Melania, okay rin siya. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Okay pa rin kami at kailangan lang magpa-quarantine over the next
Dahil yun ang patakaran.
So yun po ang gagawin niya. But the other thing is key also. Pag nakikinig po kayo sa mainstream media o nakikinig sa mga local news na kunwari naglalagay sila sa GMA o sa ABS-CBN Online, Rappler, or yung mga Inquirer, ganon. Ang pinapakita nila, ang gusto nilang itulak na si Trump talo pa rin daw. Yung mga survey daw, talo si Trump. Pero sinasabi po namin ngayon, hindi po totoo yun. Either hindi alam ng mga mainstream media, ng mga reporter nila, yung mga editor nila, yung mga producer, or sadya yan na tinatamad. Sadyang nagsisinungaling sila. Okay, so kailangan tayo mismo, you have the internet, meron po tayong online, social media. Kailangan tayo doon maging mas educated sa mga nangyayari sa
Ang tanong, siguro tinatanong din ng mga nanonood dito, ano ba ang, sino ba ang lamang ngayon dito sa kampanyas? Wala bang lamang o meron lamang o ano ba yung nangyayari ngayon? Ano bang status?
Yung status, if we're going to go, may mga kasi independent polls na nangyayari ngayon for the, alam mo yung election is November 3. So 1 month na lang election na sa ang mga polls actually, yung mga the independent polls, hindi po yung ginagamit ng mga CNN, gano'n. Lamang na lamang po si Trump. Okay? And he is way by very far. And napansin niyo po, siya lang umiikot sa buong US eh. Sa mga rally, sa mga ganyan. Ang dami pong tao na pupunta dyan. Si Biden po hindi gumagalaw. At kung nagpe-press con siya o pupunta siya sa isang lugar, siguro mas marami pang tao dyan sa hospital room ni Trump ngayon kaysa sa mga rally ni Biden eh. Ganun po. So malayo po. So in fact, bago magdebate, sabi nga ng mga ang gusto mangyari ng camp ng ni Biden at ng Democrats is every 30 minutes daw mag-break to ni Biden. Break muna every 30 minutes. Or gusto niya kasi daw para hindi daw magulo. Pero sabi ni Trump, hindi. Gawin natin, tuloy-tuloy lang natin. Kung hindi mo kaya magdebate ng 1 hour and 30 minutes straight, paano mo papatakbuhin yung bansa? Yun yung sabi ni Trump. Tama naman siya. At kung napansin nyo, kung pinanood nyo ulit yung debate, makikita nyo po kung ano talagang ang resulta. And I think yung mga tao sa US, may yung report nga natin kanina with Liz Wheeler, sabi niya 66% of Spanish-speaking Americans said Trump won that debate.
Bakit importante yung Spanish-speaking Americans?
Malaki.
Bandang yan, di ba? California
Yes,
and
South,
that part of that is a very big
Group.
chunk of voting public.
Yes.
I just wondered how Filipinos are faring here. Sa akin, ang aking mga kaibigan, parang kalahati na kay Trump, tapos yung iba na kay...
You're talking about
Biden.
Filipino-Americans who are voting.
Who are voting.
Yeah. Actually, may mga grupo po sa Facebook, hanapin niyo po, Filipinos for Trump. Lahat ng Pilipino sa US na for Trump. Nagsasama-sama po sila. So, malaking grupo po yun. Kasi actually, malaki ang... You have the Spanish-speaking Americans and
Right.
you have the Filipinos. We presume that they're also Christian Catholic.
Right.
So, they see po, nakikita po nila yung pro-life stance ng presidente. Alam mo, the only president that stood for pro-life and Catholic was John F. Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy.
1963 po yun. Ngayon, you have a Trump that is saying, no, we need to protect life. Wala siyang sinasanto, hindi siya nag-aano na, itong grupo gusto nila pro-choice, dapat sa lahat. Hindi. Ito yung sabi nga ni Chairman, he drew the line. Either you're here or you're not. Hindi pwedeng, and hindi po siya politiko. Yun yung hindi siya politiko, hindi tulad dito. Kita mo naman yung mga politiko natin.
Negosyante kasi ito no? Kanya ibang kanyang kamada at ibang kanyang perception sa mga sitwasyon. Hindi siya namumulitika.
Hindi, pero yung pagka-negosyante po niya rin, patriotiko po siya eh.
Yes.
Hindi siya yung papasok sa negosyo na nakakalamang sa tao. Diba? Hindi siya, he will not take advantage of his fellow. Dapat lahat nagsama. Kung magaling ako, itong real estate, ito yung presyo, magaling. Pero kung tulad ng mga Meralco,
Mhm.
at kita mo na naghihirap yung mga yung mga taong bayan. Hindi siya papasok sa ganyan. Hindi siya mang-aapi ng. And we know this because everything he's doing po is in line with his philosophy of pro-life,
Mhm.
that every man is created equal. Ganun po si Trump.
At saka negosyante nga talaga.
Oo.
Dahil tingnan nyo ha, pumunta siya sa Germany, sinabi niya sa Germany, ba't hindi nyo kami binabayaran? Ang dami naming mga armas dito, tapos ang dami naming mga sundalo na pinagtatanggol kayo. No? Kami ang nagtatanggol sa inyo dito pero wala kayong binibigay sa amin. No? Kailangan bigyan nyo kami. Bayaran nyo kami para bilagay namin yan. At kung hindi nyo kami babayaran,
Alis na kami.
hihilain ko na yung mga tao ko. Bakit ko pa itataya dyan kung magkaroon kayo ng gera? Sabi niya yan. So, ano po nangyari? Pinauwi niya. Ang dami namang tao, mga sundalo back to the US. Ganyan din ang ginawa niya sa ibang lugar sa Europa. Ganyan din ang gawa niya sa Middle East. No? Yung nasa Syria, binalik na niya. Yung nasa Afghanistan, binabalik na niya. Tapos yung nasa Iraq, binabalik niya yung mga sundalo. Sabi ko, yan ba ang isang taong gustong manggera? Siya pa ang nag-broker ng peace between these Arab countries and Israel.
Yes.
Sa UAE, sa Bahrain, sa ano pa yung...
One more
meron pa isa, tapos sa susunod na daw yung Saudi Arabia, no? Nila, peace talks nila with Israel. Yan ba ang taong gustong manggera? No? When you're trying to create peace so that there is no... Tingnan niyo po yung ginawa niya sa North Korea. Pumunta siya doon, kinaibigan niya si Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il o Kim Jong-un. Anong nangyari? Ano sila? Hindi ngayon, buwan doon, hindi na nagpapalabas ng mga raketa itong mga North Korea.
Yeah.
At nagsusulatan daw sila ni Trump. They're writing love letters to each other.
Magkaibigan na sila.
Magkaibigan na sila.
No? Tama.
Is that the thinking of a man who wants to make war?
Yes.
No?
And a politician.
And a politician.
Hindi siya po politic.
Tignan mo ang nangyari sa China. Yung sa China, it's a little sensitive.
Yeah.
No?
Complicated.
Because meron siyang, yun ang pinakamalaking niya sa negosyo.
Trading
So,
partner.
sabi niya sa China, masyado kaming maraming binibili sa inyo, pero kayo wala kayong binibili sa amin. So, kailangan bumili kayo sa amin. So, anong ginawa ng China? O sige. Ngayon lang, kailan lang, about a month, 2 months ago, now they're going to buy $250 billion worth of American-produced goods to go into China. That's only the start.
Yeah.
No? Ngayon, ayun sinasabi natin Wuhan na ilagay sa pag-iisip ni Trump, nitong mga... Siyempre, ang gulo nito, hindi natin alam
Maraming kasing kalaban because maraming kalaban.
Sinasabi niya, yung Wuhan ay yung COVID ginawa sa China at sinadyang ipalabas na ito papunta sa Amerika, sa mundo. No? Ito parang pinaniwalaan ni Trump, pero he's very careful na pwedeng nangyari yan, pero hindi alam at hindi sasadyain ni Xi Jinping. Yan. Dahil si Xi Jinping, marangal na tao yan, kaibigan ko yan, kakilala ko yan.
Yan ang sinasabi niya.
Na hindi niya gagawin yan. Kung man totoo na nangyari yan, no, marahil hindi alam ni Xi Jinping. Ngayon, lumalabas ngayon na yung Wuhan Laboratory sa China,
China.
na gumawa nitong pinagmulan para daw ng COVID ay isang laboratory na pag-aari ni Bill Gates. No? Nagtayo daw sila ng maliit na laboratory. At nung sumiklab na yung COVID, sinarado na yung Wuhan para mawala na yung ebidensya. No? Pero yung Wuhan po is a big city.
Yes.
No? In a much bigger province.
Yes,
What's the name of the province there? But at any rate, it's a big city kasi laki po siguro ng Manila or more pa. No? Yan yung Wuhan. No? So, meron silang itinayong laboratory doon. No? Tapos, maraming spekulasyon ngayon, may mga storyang lumulusot na sinasabi yung daw virus ng COVID, ginawa daw sa isang lugar sa Arizona, no? Isang laboratorio. Tapos, dinala daw sa Wuhan. At buhat doon daw, doon nila pinakawalan. No? Para masabi na galing sa China itong sakit na ito. No? Para hindi nila masabi na galing sa Amerika. May kakayanan ba ang taong ganyan? Siyempre, lalong-lalo na yung mga may pera at yung may mga masamang intensyon. But these are all speculation. Wala pa tayong mga real confirmation yan. We just want to go back to Trump. This is not, Trump's idea is not to make war. Trump's idea is to strengthen the United States economically and so that its people will have enough work. Kanya po nawalan ng work itong mga Amerikano dahil pumasok sila sa globalization ng parantay. Anong nangyari po dyan sa globalization? Yung mga may trabaho sa Amerika, masyado daw mahal ang sweldo nila. Como telephone operator lang sila. Anong ginawa nitong mga pinayagan nilang mga kumpanya? Tanggalin yung trabaho ng mga call center dito sa Amerika at dinala sa Pilipinas, sa India, at sa iba pang lugar. Dito sa Pilipinas, tayo ang naging call center ng Amerika. Bakit? Kasi ang labor natin is 30 times cheaper than that of America. So para saan? Para umunlad tayo? Hindi po. Para lumaki ang pera, ang profits nitong mga kumpanya nila. Now this became the direction, globalization. Don't put barriers. What happens? Countries like the United States and the whole of Europe started having unemployment problem. Their people didn't have work. Why? Because they could not afford to pay the salaries. These companies could not afford to pay the salaries, these Europeans and the Americans. Where were they going? They were going to cheaper countries. One was there, one was China. Dahil napakamahal na gumawa ng mga industrial goods dito sa Amerika at sa Europa. Sabi, paggawa na lang natin sa China under license. So anong umunlad? Ang China. Umunlad yung China dahil nag-develop sila ng technological capabilities at gumawa sila mga factory. Dahil dito sa globalization. Now, nung lumaki ang China dahil dyan sa globalization, sabi nila, China has to be put down. So ano-ano ang direksyon. Nung hindi na nila kaya, etong deep state, sabi nila, kailangan banatan natin ang China, banatan na rin natin ng Russia, militarily. And this is where we are now. But Trump doesn't want to use military to bring it down. You want competition in economics, okay, but you don't have to kill each other. And so what will happen now? He says, it is China's legitimate aspiration to make China a productive country, strong country, a strong sovereign country. It is our aspiration to make the U.S. one of the leader nations again in the world, because we have tremendous capability, tremendous talent, tremendous resources, sabi niya, and we can become the biggest industrial country again. Kasi ngayon, hindi na sila biggest industrial country. China na. And the same aspirations for all countries. Tayo din. Meron tayong aspiration to become a strong nation.
In other words, hindi siya nakikialam.
Hindi kanya pipigilan.
Yes.
No?
Unlike other US presidents, sabihin nila, ito yung gusto mong gawin. Ito yung gagawin mo. Kasi kailangan ko ito. So, sumunod ka na lang. Ito si Trump, hindi. The other thing is that, again, going back, so we know now, sinong kalaban ni Trump. We know now that medyo malaki yung kalaban niya. Malakas, mayaman, lahat. Ito yung mga global elites na tinatawag in the state. Now there is a because of this threat. Si Trump po is a threat to their very existence.
Right.
Okay? So now they will also try and get Trump out. So ngayon, there is a move by members of his own military. There is talk that members of his own military will try to effect a coup.
Bakit ganito? Why will they try to effect a coup? Coup against Trump?
Against Trump.
Never before. Alam niyo po, kung American president ka, commander-in-chief ka ng pinakamalaking kasundaluhan sa buong mundo. Commander-in-chief, never before did the military segment, anyone, wanted to depose their own president. Pero today, dahil dito sa mga deep state at magkakaroon ng competition, meron pong mga ilan-ilan mga retired military officers. Kasama na po dyan, sila Colin Powell. Alam niyo po si Colin Powell. Si General Mathis, kasama na po dyan, at mga iba pang na nag-uusap. Ang siniisip nila that they need a collective action against Trump. Bakit po? Kasi, tandaan niyo sinabi natin earlier, tinatanggal ni Trump ang mga military niya from the Middle East and some parts of Europe. If you know the term military-industrial complex, ang ibig sabihin nun, yung mga militar, tsaka yung mga industries, yung mga gumagawa ng sandata, yung gumagawa ng eroplano, gumagawa ng tangke, gumagawa ng mga baril, ang mga bala, industriya po yan, malaking industriya. At nakikinabang itong mga general dyan. Kakuntsaba nila itong mga different types of industries. When Trump does this, nawawala yung malaki nilang negosyo. Tatandaan nyo po, binaril si John F. Kennedy. Bakit po? Ang usap-usapan nun, dahil ang plano niya to move away from Vietnam. Yun ang gustong, yung Vietnam po, yung gera ng mga military-industrial complex. Gusto nilang palawakin pa nga yung gera sa Southeast Asia noon. But Kennedy already decided that he was going to pull out So before he could actually pull out, he killed him. Now, the situation is similar. So there is now this move, a possible coup d'etat, because they might not be able to shoot him or kill him, a possible coup d'etat in case they're not able to kill Trump or defeat him in the election. No, they're thinking of this. Who is saying this?
Yeah. I just wanted to add, a coup d'etat, ang nangyari po kay Kennedy, in effect was a coup d'etat. Because pinatay nila yung commander-in-chief, namatay, natanggal na, and then a new set of generals took over. Yung mismong policy na gusto nilang pairalin, ayaw ni Kennedy, tinanggal nila yung commander-in-chief, may bagong commander-in-chief. Para silang nag-coup, parang So now this group of deep state, diba, globalists, and one of the most one of the interviews we've had with LaRouche is from this former senator and former military man, Colonel Black.
Senator Black, he was a state senator and also from the military.
Yes, and he's been saying this, given interviews not only in LaRouche but also on other media. And we'd like to show a portion of his interview. And what he says is an imminent threat against Trump.
Possible coup.
Possible.
I'm pleased to be with you today. My topic is, do we risk a military coup? By way of background, let me just say that I'm Colonel Richard H. Black, retired. I was a career judge advocate officer and former chief of the Army Criminal Law Division, Office of the Judge Advocate General at the Pentagon. I played a key role in deploying the 7th Infantry Division to quell the 1992 LA riots. Let me give you a little background to start with. The Insurrection Act is among the most fundamental of all federal laws. First enacted in 1807, it has been used repeatedly to carry out government's most elemental responsibility, that of ensuring domestic tranquility. The preamble to the Constitution lists the task of ensuring domestic tranquility among the 5 purposes for which the Constitution of the United States was created. Nothing is more vital than protecting the physical safety of Americans. Military officials are sworn to defend the nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. On June the 4th, 2020, the prominent publication Foreign Policy published a morning brief entitled "Generals Denounce Trump's Protest Crackdown Plan." The brief critiqued the president's threat to invoke the Insurrection Act and subtly disparaged its relevance as a 2-century-old law. But the law empowering the president to quell unrest using military force has been invoked 22 times since its first use in 1808. Presidents Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, Ulysses Grant, Rutherford Hayes, Grover Cleveland, Woodrow Wilson, Herbert Hoover, Franklin Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, and George H.W. Bush have each invoked the Insurrection Act to do such things as stop riots, enforce desegregation orders, end military disturbances, and to quell labor disputes. Defense One, a military online publication, reported that 2 retired lieutenant colonels, John Nagel and Paul Yingling, have written an open letter to General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, urging him to employ military force to remove the President of the United States if he does not leave office on January 20th, 2021. They wrote, if Donald Trump refuses to leave office at the expiration of his constitutional term, the United States military must remove him by force, and you must give that order. Now, it should go without saying that it is impermissible for retired officers to urge a coup to overthrow the government of the United States. And since President Trump has never hinted that he would not follow the constitutional plan for succession of power, it is doubly disturbing that their call for military insurrection is based on fanciful conjecture about what the president might or might not do under various scenarios. The idea of a military takeover has been percolating for some time. As early as August 18, 2020, Defense One had published an article by Thomas Crosby entitled 6 Scenarios for Military Intervention After January 20th. After discussing the rather implausible scenarios, its author stated, coups are nasty things, and discussing them in the American context is deeply distasteful. Nevertheless, facing those scenarios may help us understand the real dynamics general and flag officers will be forced to navigate in the coming months. The author appears to suggest that the generals must begin to contemplate overthrowing the president on or after January 20th, 2021, if the situation warrants doing so. Now, that lieutenant colonel's letter might be dismissed as delusional. However, other factors, including its prominent placement in Defense One, suggest that others are acting in concert to undermine the authority of the president as commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The military, quite frankly, is becoming dangerously politicized. General James Mattis is the former Secretary of Defense who resigned in 2018 in a successful effort to block the president from withdrawing troops from Syria. On June 3rd, 2020, he issued a frightening denunciation of the president. After praising the rioters for their wholesome and unifying demands, he denounced the president in scathing terms. And he said, "We are witnessing the consequences of 3 years without mature leadership." He said, "We can unite without him," drawing on the strengths inherent in our civil society. During the week of June the 7th, 2020, retired General Colin Powell led other retired military leaders in blasting the commander-in-chief. Powell praised those officers who had spoken out against the president in recent days. General Powell echoed General Mattis's denunciations of the president, saying that he agreed that Trump is the first president in his lifetime who is not trying to unite the country. As an aside, I would point out that it was General Colin Powell who famously waved a test tube mimicking sarin gas, deceitfully urging the UN to support the invasion of Iraq. His guile and deception led to the 2003 invasion of Iraq and the killing of 2 million innocent people. In a veiled swipe at the American electorate, retired Marine General John Kelly said, "I think we need to look harder at who we elect." Retired Marine Corps General John Allen arrogantly claimed, "Donald Trump isn't religious. He has no need for religion and doesn't care about the devout, except insofar as they serve his political needs." The declarations of these military officials appear calculated to undermine the president's authority to quell domestic disturbances by suggesting that invoking the Insurrection Act is illicit, and by downplaying widespread urban terror, these officials have placed their imprimatur on the violent criminal behavior. Article 88 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice prohibits retired officers from using contemptuous words against the President of the United States. It is difficult to justify legally many of these officers' comments. In some instances, the contemptuousness toward the President appears to violate criminal law. Taken together, the coordinated release of scathing remarks by senior officials, coupled with publication of a letter advocating a military coup, suggests a deep sickness within the Pentagon and within our constitutional structure. To my knowledge, neither the Secretary of Defense nor the service chiefs have taken action against the widely publicized talk of military insurrection. General Milley should refer the colonel's letter to the legal counsel for the Joint Chiefs to determine whether its publication violates the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Beyond that, Secretary of Defense Mark Esper has an obligation to issue a grave warning against officers, both active and retired, who seek to overthrow the President of the United States using armed force. Those retired officers who have published contemptuous words against the President of the United States should be issued permanent letters of reprimand cautioning against criminal violations of Article 88 UCMJ. They should be reminded that Article 88 applies to retired officers and that the law was enacted because undermining the authority of the Commander-in-Chief presents a clear and present danger to the survival of our republic. The Department of Defense must act resolutely to restore public confidence. Americans deserve assurance that our nation will not be overthrown by a military cabal.
Yan po si Colonel Black. I think next week we will try to...
We might have, ito pong speaker natin, si Colonel Black, retired, and former state senator. We might have him live via Zoom next week, Sunday. Titignan po natin dahil napakaaga po ng kailangan magising sa
7 a.m.
Amerika. No, for this. No? Pero at any rate, we would like to hear him based on what he was saying. Kung napakinggan yung mabuti, mabigat po, napakabigat ng sinasabi niya. No? Na itong mga retired generals, no, gumagawa ng paraan at nagsasabi na na kinakailangan to take out Trump by force, no? Kung hindi siya bababa by January 20 of 2021. Agad nasa mind na nila, unang-una na hindi bababa si Trump. Tingnan nyo mabuti. Kung may plano silang mandaya, no? Kung may planong mandaya ang mga Democrats dito sa itong darating na eleksyon, katulad ng mga, alam nyo po ba yung mail voting? Mail-in vote. Ang sinasabi kasi ng mga Democrats, wag na kayong pumunta sa ipadala nyo na lang yung boto nyo by mail. No? At ang sinasabi naman ni Trump, delikado to dahil madali ang dayaan dyan. No? Tapos, yun ang pinaplano nila kasi ngayon pa lang nakakahanap na ng mga balota na parang mail, no?
Ah.
Na galing sa iba-ibang lugar, no? At hindi mo nakakilala basta meron lang mga pangalan ng tao doon. Parang we don't know the real source of this, but apparently they're discovering these batches of mail
voting forms.
no? So ang suspicion pagdating dito sa Nobyembre, hindi katulad noon na pag November 3 yung eleksyon, November 4 alam mo na kung sino yung presidente, di ba? Ngayon, malamang November 3 election, hindi i-anunsyo kung sinong nanalo dahil sasabihin nila hindi pa natin nabibilang yung mga mail-in votes no? Ay kanya kailangan hintayin natin yung mail-in votes. Dito sa pamamaraan na ito, tatagal, no? At gagawa ng milagro, no? At yun ang binabantayan ngayon ng mga grupo ni Trump. At kung magkaroon man ng milagro, no? Medyo masalimuot ito, no? Patigasan ba to o mahuhuli ba yung mga nandadaya o makakasuhan pa o kung anong mangyayari, no? Pero parang alam na nitong mga general na ito na magulo dahil meron mandaraya, no? Hindi nila, alam niyo po, they don't accuse Trump of planning to cheat. It is Trump that is accusing them of planning to cheat.
Yes.
Dahil malakas ang loob ni Trump na ang taong bayan suporta sa kanya. No? Ngayon, ang ginagawa ng mga Democrats, gumagawa ng paraan para hindi magamit yung mga boto ng taong bayan. If this is what, then they're discouraging people from voting. By lip service, sasabihin, go out and vote. Sabihin nila, pero in terms of mga system, yung mga grupo-grupo, sabi nila, pwede nyo naman i-mail in yung boto nyo pag hindi nyo kayang pumunta sa mga voting places. Now this, we just wanted to mention this, that this is very important. Never before in the United States that that the military, whether retired or not, had openly advocated changing or replacing the president by force, which is like a coup that they're planning. And this is very big. And if ever that happens, major crisis po ang mundo. We will have him, the Colonel Black, retired, the former state senator, next week, hopefully, para ma-one-on-one natin ang interview natin with regard to this so that you hear it not just from this tape message, but we will be able to ask him some questions about his the sources and how he developed this information.
Yeah. It's a dangerous time nga. Yun nga, pinaka-importanteng election here. And lumalaban sila. Lumalaban po si Trump and the patriots na tinatawag ng United States. Hindi ko pwedeng sabihin Republican and Democrats. I will put them all in one. Para silang KDP. Hindi mga politiko, pero mga patriots. Gusto lang for the benefit of the country. Yan po ang sila Trump. Right now it's very dangerous because lalo na yung planong dadagdagan ko lang yung sinabi ni Chairman mail-in voting. Not only mail-in voting, hindi kailangan you don't have to prove your citizenship para makaboto. So kahit hindi ka US citizen, nandun ka sa US, papadalang ka sa address mo, bumoto ka. Yan ang gusto ng mga Democrat. Alright? So obviously, ang plano talaga is mandaya. Kasi kung magkakalat sila ng ilang milyon na boto, pwede nilang dayain. Itong yung sa atin lang, Smartmatic, Comelec, ang dali-dali mandaya mail-in pa.
Saka yung non-citizens. Yung, alam nyo po ba, isipin nyo mabuti. Kung meron hindi Pilipino dito, isasama nyo ba siyang bumoto sa pagka-presidente ng bansa natin? It's so absurd, pero ito po ang gustong gawin ng mga Democrats. At paano sila pwedeng mandaya? Alam niyo po ganito. Pwede nilang isulat itong mga pangalan na ito. And they will say, iboboto nga si Biden. No? Pero sino itong mga ito? They will say they are illegal aliens. Non-citizens. So pag non-citizen ka, gusto sabihin TNT ka. No? Pag TNT ka, gusto sabihin wala kang address. Hindi ka nila mahanap, hindi nila mabe-verify kung ikaw nga yung nagboto. Basta meron dito pangalan, ito ang binoto niya. So they can manufacture all of these things, no? And just claim that they are aliens. They are non-citizens. No? And because we don't know where their address is, you cannot find them. No? There is no way of verifying, but there must be aliens. So yun itong idadagdag nila. That is the way they plan to cheat. And it's so absurd. It's really absurd. Dito sa atin, citizens na nga tayo, gusto pa natin ng ID. No? Meron pa tayong voters ID to identify who we are, where we live, ganyan. No? Ito mga ganito sa Amerika, wala na yan. Hindi na nila hinahanap yan. Basta pumunta ka lang doon at bumoto. Di ba napakadaling dayain yan?
Yan ang gusto ng mga kalaban ni Trump.
Yan ang gusto ng kalaban ni Trump. At nakikita na niya, katulad natin, kung ganyan, di siyempre ang dali magdaya. No? At kung mandaraya ako, tapos papakita ko na panalo ko, tapos si Trump hindi papayag dahil nandaya tayo. O di ba gulo na? Tapos papasok kayo itong mga military na ipopwersahin si Trump umalis. You can see how volatile the situation is and how seriously in crisis the United States is right now. It is not just the COVID, it is not just the deterioration of the economy, but it is a political situation that endangers not just America but the rest of the world.
It's a fight. Yun po yung laban, di ba? Doon po tayo sa pro-life, doon po tayo sa general welfare ng mga tao ng buong mundo, o dito po tayo pupunta sa gera or malnutrition and dark age, di ba? Yun po yung mangyayari ngayon. Yun yung kalaban. And then so far po, kahit hindi kami US citizens, we support what Trump stands for. He's done and wants to do. So I think and I think he's been posting naman dito sa mga Twitter niya, mga social media accounts po ni Donald Trump. Sundan nyo sa Facebook, sa Twitter, sa Instagram. Hanapin nyo po. Nagpo-post po siya ng updates niya. Mukhang okay pa naman siya. Tsaka nag-report yung mga doktor na okay, stable naman si Trump, getting better. Wala daw kailangan ka. Okay, so wag po tayong, ako, galing po akong mainstream media dati, nagtrabaho po ako sa ABS-CBN at lahat. Sinasabi ko na sa inyo ngayon, kailangan wag nyo silang pakinggan when it comes to Trump. Mali-mali po yung sinasabi nila, hindi ko alam kung sadya, hindi. Pero lalo na, yung Rappler po, huwag nyo na pong pakinggan. Huwag nyo nang bigyan ng pansin dahil yan ang yung leader po ng Rappler, may kasong libel.
Hindi kaso. This is a cyber convict.
Yeah.
Nakasuhan na siya. Na decision na yan.
No. Kumbaga, libel na siya. Tapos maglalabas pa siya ng mga kunwari,
Tsaka fact checker pa siya ng Facebook.
So, obvious na sila.
What an absurd situation.
Yeah, pero obvious sila anong gagawin nila. So, kailangan you have to dig deeper, you have to dig broader. You have to look at many different things para yung katotohanan. So, we can go to the question.
Sige. It's time to read the text messages sent to us by our listeners. Their opinions not necessarily ours, but we reserve the right to read them to the public in the interest of freedom of speech. Okay?
Sir Butch, good PM. Hindi nakakuha sa higpit ng kayabangan ng pagpapatupad ng batas. Imbes na tulungan ng makapag-aral mga bata, nag-atas pa ng direktiba si Eleazar na bawalan ng mga minor de edad na pumasok sa internet shops. Bawa naman yung mga bata na walang internet sa kanilang bahay para makapag-aral. Paano kaya ngayon na bawal ang face-to-face sa classrooms? Paano kung walang internet access? Mga bata, tama lang siguro bawalan yung mga tambay lang sa internet shops at kung hindi na oras ang klase mga bata. Baka mapulaan na naman pulis sa direktibang ito na walang awa na si Eleazar, KDP para niya.
Alam mo yan, ito ang isang ehemplo na parang naggumawa ng patakaran ang ating pamahalaan na hindi pinag-aralan mabuti. No? Unang-unang, napakarami ng naghihirap dito sa sistemang online classrooms. No? Umaangal ang mga magulang na kinakailangan bibili pa sila ng mga tawag dito, mga equipment, mga tablet at ganito para makaano sa online class. Dagdag na sa gastos. I'm not talking about public school. Ito po yung mga ibang privado sector. Tapos, yung kanilang tuition, hindi naman talagang nababawasan. No? Ang sabi nila, dahil binabayad pa rin daw nila yung mga teacher at lahat-lahat. No? So, hindi mababawasan yung gastos sa tuition, nadadagdagan pa dahil dito sa binibili nilang mga tablet. At napiperwisyo pa lahat, pati mga magulang, dito sa napakahirap na intindihin na communication ng mga teacher dito sa internet. I was wondering that if this system, pipilitin natin itong pag-aaral ng mga bata via internet, lalo na sa elementary, is it worth it? Is it worth? Meron ba silang additional learning benefit dito? Nadadagdagan ba ang kanilang kaalaman dito sa sistemang napakahirap para sa kanila? Is there an additional learning benefit? Kung hindi, nakakasiguro ba kayo na dahil wala na tayo dati sa sistemang yan, ang kaalaman ng mga bata, madadagdagan ba o aabot ba sa standard? Parang kung grade 5 siya, grade 5 talaga ang matututunan niya. Sa palagay ko po, hindi. Because the whole system is impairing the learning capacity of the child. Pinapahirap po. Dapat isipin po natin mabuti. Pipilitin pa po natin, na itong elementary, ganyan ang gagawin. At kung hindi nyo magagawa itong face-to-face sa mga classrooms, siguro mamarapatin po natin gawin itong ano to,
Homeschool.
ano tayo?
Homeschool.
Homeschooling, ano yung tawag doon?
Mm.
Sa bahay na lang sila mag-aaral,
Mm.
padala yung mga materyales sa mga magulang, no? At para maturuan yung mga bata. Ngayon, after 6 months or after 1 year, magpahayag ng isang test para sa buong grade 5, no? At kung pumasa yung mga bata dyan, pues pumasa sila. Ngayon, kung yung mga magulang ayaw tutulong sa kanilang anak, desisyon po nila yan. Hindi po desisyon ninyo, no? Sa DepEd, no? Desisyon ng magulang na hindi nila i-tutor yung mga anak nila para makasalta sa grade 5 papuntang grade 6 o kung saan man. No? Yan po ang iniisip kong mas expedient at mas reasonable, no? Considering the present situation now. Ito pong online teaching, pwede po siguro pagdating sa college, no? Ano ba yung college ngayon na Roxanne? Grade 12? Ano ba yun?
18 years old.
Third year college na yon? Ano?
College.
Ganun pa rin tawag.
First year. Pagdating po sa college, first year college, doon po natin ilagay yung online teaching.
Kung kailangan pa.
Kung kakailanganin pa, no? Kasi sila, mas mature na, mas kakayanin, mas bihasa nila sila ngayon sa ganyan online teaching. Pero dito po sa mga bata, maski na high school hanggang grade school, no? Siguro mag-homeschooling muna tayo. Pero yung mga materials, materials that you want, for example, for elementary of grade 5, ganyan, no? Nandiyan yan, and imprenta nyo na lang, bigay nyo sa mga magulang, at bahala sila sa anak nila. Ganyan lang po, no? Kaya bahala sila kung gusto nilang turuan. Kung ayaw nilang turuan, at walang magtuturo, walang tiyahin, walang lolo, walang lola, walang kapatid na magtuturo sa bata, pues wala tayong magagawa, no? At pagdating ng 6 months after, pagdating ng test, hindi papasa o kaya hindi nakukuha ng test yung bata. Di ba ba? No? Pero tuloy pa rin ang aaral kung gugustuhin ito. Ngayon, yung mga ibang nakakapag-aral sa homeschooling dahil binigyan sila ng curriculum o yung teaching materials at ito na yung kailangan matapos nila, yun ang at kumuha sila ng test, pues nakapasa sila.
Tapos mag-advance sila.
Okay. Pangalawa, yung mga subjects po, kailangan bawasan natin. Huwag natin silang pinupuno ng dami-dami mga subject. Kunin lang po natin yung mga importante tungkol sa pananalita, let's say sa English, tungkol sa math, no? At siguro sa science, di ba? At yung mga, siguro 3 or 4 subjects lang ang gamitin natin na importante sa learning capacity sa mga bata para hindi sila nabobobo. No? At maski na hindi pumasa sa test, pero hindi sila nagiging mangmang. No? So meron effort to try and tell the parents that they have a role here. No? Ngayon, let me go to the point of about General Eliasar. Ito ang isa pang napaka-anong sitwasyon na pag naglagay ka ng isang patakaran, no? Etong mga sundalong to, mga pulis, hindi nag-iisip. No? Wala na silang discretion. Basta black is black, white is white. Which means they are stupid. These policemen, no, who are used to just following orders, black is black, white is white, basta kung wala, bahala ka sa buhay mo, ito ang batas. Yan ang problema. No? Pag nagbigay po tayo ng utos na ganyan, no, itong mga pulis na gustong magpasikat, no? At ayaw magkaroon ng discretion, no? Ayaw nang isipin, ano ba ang makatao?
Oo.
Kasi mayroon mga rules, but there are gray areas. Hindi ka basta-basta black is black, tapos ayaw mo nang tignan. Bahala na sila sa buhay nila. Di po ganyan. Kung ikaw ay pulis, at ikaw ay kasama sa ating administrasyon, kailangan meron ka pa rin humanity in you. Hindi ka pulis dahil tanga ka. You are not a policeman to enforce the law because you are stupid. No? That is not the reason. You are precisely there because you have a quality of discretion, a quality where you understand the situation. Ang batas po, hindi kino-cover lahat ng anggulo. Kinakailangan gagawa ng batas that nandyan na tayo. Pero it does not cover all the situations. That is up to you now, Mr. Policeman, to see what requires your understanding, your humanity, your discretion on the situation. Dahil hindi ka tanga, general ka, no? Hindi ka robot, no? Tao ka, at you are dealing also with human beings. No? That's the problem with these people. No? Black or white lang sila. Tanga kasi. No? They don't want to have any discretion. Natatakot sila na pag nag-decide sila na maging makatao, imbes na maging robot, no? Mas gusto pa nilang maging robot. Bahala na yung tao, mamatay na siya kung mamamatay. Basta tinutupad mo lang ang batas. Stupid! That's really stupid! Next.
Okay, from Facebook. Good evening, everyone. Watching from Pangasinan, Maharlika, German Guid. Rudy Lopez. Good evening po, Sir Butch, Saritos. Watching from Pangasinan. Good evening. Mario Oishi, ang sabi po ng mga taga-Amerika, wala daw ginawa si Trump sa Black Lives Matter. Please explain po. Actually, yung Black Lives Matter po was created by people from the deep state and funded by George Soros po. So, kalaban po yan ni Trump. Ang sinasabi nila, anti-racist daw, Black Lives Matter, pero sila po ang naninira ng mga, sila po yung nagsusunog, sila po yung nagra-riot dyan sa mga, talagang hindi dapat dapat pigilan yan at pinigil nga ni Trump.
Alam nyo, dadagdagan ko lang. Yung Black Lives Matter, isa po siyang parang ginagawang bandera ng mga black communities, no? Dahil po nag-umpisa yan dito sa isang tao na sabi nila pinatay ng pulis, no? Pulis na puti. At hindi daw nakialam si Trump at hindi daw ginawa ni Trump na parusahan yung pulis. Unang-una po, nung nangyari yan tungkol sa isang tao, hindi po natin masasabi agad-agad na walang kasalanan yung tao. Kung man namatay yung yung si George Floyd, diyan nag-umpisa yung Black Lives Matter. Kung man namatay siya, inimbestigahan po yan at nagkaroon po ng, ang mga nag-iimbestiga, itim na policeman din. No? At kilala nila yung Floyd na yan. At kung ano yung, criminal history ng taong yan. Pero hindi sapat yon para patayin siya. Anyway, si Trump po ay presidente. Ang ginawa nilang martir itong si George Floyd. At gumawa silang isang movement, maraming mga paskil, no, na dinadala nila, Black Lives Matter. Ibig sabihin, ang buhay ng mga itim dapat may halaga. Ang sabi naman ng mga iba, all lives matter. Lahat ng buhay ay may halaga. Hindi lang yung itim. Ang nangyayari ngayon, yung itim ginagawang panglaban sa mga puti. At siyang sinasabi nila, si Trump daw ay kampi sa puti. Hindi po totoo yan. Marami pong programang ginawa si Trump na nakikinabang po lahat, lalong-lalo na po yung mga Black America, no? But dahil sa kampanya na binibigyan ng pera nitong si George Soros, no, ay tuloy-tuloy. Alam nyo, may mga rally. Maski dito nakikita nyo na yung mga rally-rally. Ganyan din po, pera po ang nagpapa-under dyan. Tapos gumawa pa po sila ng ibang grupo called Antifa. Sabi nila anti-fascist. Dahil ang tawag nila kay Trump ay isang fascista. Antifa. Pero ano po ang ginagawa nitong mga Antifa? Grupo din yan. Sumasabak yan, isang grupo palagi sa mga rally. Ang unang-unang ginagawa nila, they destroy property. Sinisira nila yung mga department stores at ninanakawan nila. Itong leader na Antifa, isa sa mga leader na babae, na abogado, ang sinasabi niya pa, okay lang daw manira ng mga negosyo. Okay lang daw. Total, meron naman insurance sa mga yan. Kanya, papabayaan daw ilabas yung galit nila at magnakaw sila dito sa mga department stores. Total, naka-insure naman yung mga yan. No? At kinakailangan mabigyan ng pagkakataon makakuha ng iba namang konting konsuelo. This is what is behind the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter that is being used against Trump.
We have 1 minute left.
Anyway, we'll just go through. Never mind the time.
Freddie Oredina.
Meron pang yan. General.
Jose Perez, Oco. Mga sir, totoo daw na si General Flynn ay papalit kay Trump? Kasi nga daw may military junta na daw mangyayari after the American election. And JFK Jr. daw ay buhay pa nga daw. Yun ang mga haka-haka po ng mga taos around Trump and the movement ng yung mga analysts on Facebook and on YouTube. But we'll never know yet. We'll see. Lots of stories now. Freddie Oredina, without RevGov, Duterte must execute Article 12 of 1987 Constitution. House greedy oligarchs, rent seekers from public utilities, junk EPIRA law. Beware of quote-unquote new normal. Until when will we use face shields, mass distancing, and always testing? What is old, present, future normal? NWO, vaccine? Vaccines for COVID-19 only? When will it come? Efficacy until when? If in 2021, another vaccine, how many vaccines will a person?
Tama ka dyan, Freddie Oredina. No? You're correct. No? And the first statement is also correct. Article 12, Section 17 and 18. No? That is what is important for Duterte to do. If there was an economic vaccine, we will call that economic vaccine Article 12, Section 17 and 18 of our Constitution. That is not just something that will save lives. That is not something that will bring us to normal. No? That is an economic recovery program for the president to go and execute Article 12, Section 17 and 18 of the Constitution. That will be the initial or the vaccine, no, for an emergency economic development program.
Lemicio Rojas.
Lemi.
Good evening, Butch and Itos. Evening, Lemi. Joel Acandola. Good evening, Ating Katipunan, Sir Butch, Itos Valdes, mabuhay. Mabuhay. Teresita Gaviola, watching from Laguna. Gregorio Camo, watching from
South Carolina.
Beaufort, South Carolina, USA. Virginia Malonzo. Good evening for Sir Butch, Sir Itos, watching from Pasig. Jimmy Bonita, good evening. Giancarlo Iway, magandang gabi bayan. Vic Valpariso, magandang gabi. Sir Butch, Sir Itos. Jaime Andreas, good evening for Sir Butch and Sir Itos Valdes, watching from Tokyo. Rod White, Pariabas, magandang gabi po. Katipunan, kung gusto talaga ni Duterte na buksan ng BNPP, huwag nang konsultahin mga taga-Bataan dahil matagal nang tutol yan mga gagong pare at pinupundahan yan ng mga oligarko sa energy investment at mga NPA activist upang manlilang ng mga kaisipan ng tao ang gawin ng gobyerno. I-rehabilitation na lang na agad upang mapaandar na maaga. Watching from Zubik, Zambales.
Alam mo, Rod Voigt, totoo yan sinasabi mo. Mayroong mga tanga na obispo doon, tapos itong mga kaliwa at itong mga ibang environmentalist, no, na pumipigil dito sa BNPP dahil wala silang pakialam sa kalagayan at kabuhayan ng taong bayan. Pero I was present in at least 3 or 4, I think, 4 hearings na sponsored by Department of Energy dyan sa Bataan. Ang kausap namin, yung mga taong bayan ng Bagak Bataan at taong bayan ng Morong Bataan, kung saan sa pagitan niyan ang nuclear power plant na pinag-uusapan natin. Ang taong bayan ng Bataan at ng Bagak Bataan at ng Morong Bataan, gusto nilang paandarin yan. Ang maingay dito mga aktivista, tsaka yung governor ng Bataan na si Abet Garcia, ayaw paandarin ang Bataan Nuclear Power Plant. Bakit? Ang balita namin, dahil daw meron silang Koreanong investor na kinakausap na gawin daw coal power plant. Coal power plant ang nuclear plant ng Bataan. Kanya pinipigil po ng governor mismo. Tapos itong mga kaliwa at itong mga obispo dyan, ayaw nilang paandarin yung Bataan Nuclear Power Plant dahil daw ginawa ni Marcos. Hanggang ngayon, yan ang kanilang sinasabi. It is a monument to corruption ang tawag nila. They don't care that for the so many years that this plant has not run, we probably have already killed many people. Millions siguro. Kasi for 20 or 30 years na hindi tumatakbo yan, yung kabuhayan ng taong bayan ay bumaba ng bumaba. Whereas if we have that, we will be able to generate so much electricity to improve the quality of life of the people there. Number 2, we can attach a nuclear-powered desalination plant that will irrigate not just Bataan, but the whole of Central Luzon. Ito ang magagawa ng Bataan Nuclear Power Plant. Pero itong mga obispo na tatanga-tanga, no, at yung mga kaliwa na ayaw ng kaunlaran, lalabanan yan. Ngayon, tanga ba ang ating pamunuan? Itong mga silakusi na alipin ng mga oligarko, papayag ba sila dyan? Nasa atin na po yan. Nasa atin pong mga taong bayan ang gumawa ng paraan para mapaandar ito.
Okay. Ram Bastre, good evening mga sir watching from Thailand. Tommy Tom, good PM Katipunan channel, we're listening to your program. Freddy Oredina, Trump is not in control of USA military, instead controlled by deep state, especially Pentagon. Generals and members of Knights of Malta run by Illuminati. Well, let's hope. Kerwin Gordo, alam kasi nila panalo si Trump. Correct. Esteban Pagtakahan, good evening sir. Butch, Valdes, Sir Itos, God bless. Christopher Cruz, go go KDP. Mary Jane Baluyot, mabuhay KDP. Salamat sa karagdagang kaalaman po. Yes, go 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 Trump. Kerwin Gordo, nakakatakot ang kayang gawin ng military-industrial complex. Correct. Glenn Buwan, why is Pompeo being allowed to threaten, bully other nations, and wag the dog of war?
Alam niyo po, that is a good question. Why does Trump allow this? No? Because Pompeo has been going around precisely advocating war with China and also with Russia, but more specifically recently against China. No? Our estimation is this, Glenn, that right now you see the highest ranking Republican Party member who is in government is Pompeo, not Trump. Trump, as you know, was never in politics and was never deeply involved in the party politics. He just came in as a businessman. But the Republican Party, having no candidates at that time to face Hillary Clinton, decided to adopt what's his name, Trump. Now, in this situation, wherein it is nearing the elections, it is not. It may be not politically expedient for Trump to fire Pompeo now, because there might be a reaction on the part of the Republican Party. So anyway, he allows Pompeo to do whatever he wants to do because the trigger is on Trump and not Pompeo. The one that can make the decide to go war is Trump and not Pompeo. So he maybe lang Trump is confident that whatever Pompeo does, no, is not going to move the U.S. towards war while he is president. Now, it doesn't mean, however, that this is not gonna happen if if Trump loses or is assassinated. If Trump loses or is assassinated, then there is a possibility that there will be so much disturbance that there might also become war. Also, I'd like to add that it allows Trump politically to cater to some of the people in the United States that want him not to be too friendly with China. Alam niyo po, ang Amerika, iba-iba pong kaisipan lahat yan, no? Dahil hindi po nila naiintindihan lahat ng detalye. At marami pa rin pong mga Amerikano na galit sa China, galit sa Russia, no? So hindi po basta-basta ayaw naman lumabas si Trump parang defending Russia or defending China. So ang ginagawa niya, sinasabi niya lang yung sa kanyang naiisip, pero hindi siya diretsong bumabanat at gustong manggera sa Russia at China.
Tina Rodriguez, magaling pala si President Trump, parang si President Duterte at Marcos, makahirap. Buti na lang may papaliwanag na kagaya nyo sa Katipunan.
Thank you.
LaRouche Malonzo, stem cell treatment gamit ng unborn fetus. Jose Perez, sir, mukhang gusto niya i-push yung hydroxychloroquine talaga. Binabayaran ni Soros lahat ng MSM. As in lahat worldwide, pati mga fact-checkers, social media. Bayad lahat ni Soros. Kasabi po ng kabal. Tama. Oredina, Freddy, after they got the adrenochrome from frightened and tortured children, fast foods like McDonald's use dead children's meat as burger hot dog.
Well,
I hope not. Freddy Oredina, Flavier, para sa 14-year-old girls, vaccine para mabaog. Gates is persona non grata due vaccine for 30,000 Indian children without government consent in 2016. Biden said in debate that Antifa is an idea, not an organization. He is disconnected in reality and suffering from cognitive dissonance. 180 years in service. Reggie Maloyon Avenido. Good evening po, Sir Butch, Sir Itos. Evening. Marisa Kamba. Trump is demonized by biased media here in Hong Kong. I'm trying to explain to my boss what I learned from both of you. Maybe you are right, Marisa, sabi ng amo ko. Salamat po sa inyo at nakakasabay ako sa mga issues. Rappler, tama.
Thank you.
Rappler nga. Freddy Oredina ulit, kaya ba ng telco sabay-sabay online 23 million students? Normal meeting lang sa Zoom and Google Meet Messenger, konti lang nag-meet, disconnected pa. Tama. Raz Mendoza, magandang gabi, Father and Son Katipuneros, mabuhay po kayo. Saan na lang itong mga lugar ko sa buong mundo, gamitin nila kanilang kayamanan, talino upang gumanda ang takbo ng buhay ng lahat ng tao sa mundo. Tanong, kailan kaya ito mangyayari? Never. Luchi Melchor, very informative. Salamat po. Marie Oishi, thanks po. I will tell all that to my friends, relatives, so I'm good. Mervin Awing Dacumos, yes, dapat nang buksan ng Bataan nuclear power plant. Correct. Eric Bautista, correct ka po, Butch, dapat magkaisa na para mabuksan na. Correct. Roldan Dalida, sino bang naging industrial sa Pilipinas? Si Marcos, di ba? Cory, FBR, GMA, Noynoy, and Duterte are all against industrialization. Mabuhay po kayo. Mabuhay po tayo. Nelek si Tasara. Yes to BNPP, alternative energy and clean energy, much needed by every developed country. Thank you very much for very informative discussion, Mr. Butch and Itos.
Okay, at hanggang dito na lang po tayo sa ngalan po ng ating mga katipon dito sa ating katipunan. At ito pong mga kasama natin sa DCXL because we are on simulcast with DCXL. Thank you very much, Buddy of Manager of DCXL. Kami po ay pansamantala nagpapaalam at nagpapasalamat na sinamahan nyo kami ngayon. Ang ora de peligro ng ating bayan at ng buong mundo dito po sa ating katipunan. Hanggang sa linggo po muli mga katipon, 7 to 9 p.m. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.